Welcome to Industry 4.0.
Hey guys, welcome to Industry 4.0. It is Sunday, the 5th of November. This is episode 26. I'm joined beautifully enough by a full party today. How is everybody doing this morning?
Hello. Morning.
Doing amazing, everyone.
Everyone's still
caffeinated.
nursing their coffees and energy drinks.
Nice and caffeinated.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we have a bit of a slower week in news, but still plenty of stuff to talk about for this show. So we have a little bit of news about Google, a little bit of news for Amazon, some stuff with Logitech, and some more important news on Twitter and some Apple stuff. So to jump right in to the topic, I was going to preface the beginning of the show with welcome to I4O, home of the I4O show. May I take your order? But I couldn't get that together enough for an actual intro. But the reason why that was going to be the intro was Google is serving employees a real version of their burger emoji, which sparked a bit of controversy on Twitter last week, featuring cheese below the patty. I'm curious as to your guys' thoughts on this abomination to burgers everywhere.
Listen, as the Ervin, please, you go first.
Go ahead.
All right, as the podcast's resident fat man, I need to tell you how much of an abomination to food this was. I mean, it's who has ever thought, let's put the cheese on the bun directly. No, you let it melt over the patty like a normal human being. I don't understand. Clearly, this is the thing I've been most passionate about since we started this podcast 27 weeks ago. But listen, I get why you did it. You don't need to make it real.
Obviously, this is just another example of how disconnected Silicon Valley is from the rest of the world. putting cheese under the patty. This is ridiculous. This is an abomination. This is worse than Equifax. They don't.
I have to mute now. Thank you.
So it's just something that was funny, and I thought that we could cover it. They actually served it to their employees.
Yeah, and Google actually also doesn't understand how beer works. I don't know if you guys saw the beer.
No.
The beer emoji it's a regular like giant mug, the German style, whatever mug, but there's foam up at the top, like beer foam, but the glass is only half full. So how's the foam filling over the top when the glass is only half full?
They just don't know how to pour beer.
At least it's not half empty.
Like I said, man, these
It's too
people
foamy and airy. That's
so out of touch with reality. They just don't know how the real world operates.
stuck in their cubicles all day.
How burgers and beer work.
Yeah. And speaking of serving things without toppings, Google's not shipping their Pixel 2 without the OS, which is the final topping on any cell phone. So they're I don't understand how this happens, but this is, from my experience with Google, this is no different than the shipping circus that they had last year with the original Pixel. They're finally shipping them in good quantity, and they're able to keep up with most of the orders, but some of these phones are being shipped with issues. Like for this one, no operating system in the phone. And I understand that it's hard to get shipping processes down, and Google's come out with an official statement, saying that this is fixed going forward, but it is a little bit kind of a kick in the face when you have problems, other issues that they're going through in the press. And I know you guys talked about it in the last episode, and I was curious to hear your thoughts on this.
This entire Pixel 2 thing is just, for some, I don't know who it is, if it's Google or LG not doing their part on the QC before these phones are getting shipped out. Like, there's a combination of this, the operating system not being there, as well as all the previous ones we mentioned in the last episode. I'm not sure who's at fault. Is it LG or Google, or it's a combo of both? But cool. It does seem like if Google's trying to make a play into the hardware, right? They went all in on going on in their last event on hardware, right? Making their own phones, making their own devices. They have to get this nailed down, or else the press is just gonna eat them up next time as well.
Yeah.
Even though the issue might not be so widespread as it might seem, right?
Mhm.
Most people, I assume, just by talking to Jeff, are happy with their Pixel 2 XLs.
Mhm.
But the press will, if they screw this up again, it's just going to be a crazy.
I have a couple of points on that, and one of them is a bit of me playing devil's advocate, kind of in the favor of these articles. But when you look at the back of the box, when you get one of these Pixels, it says made by Google. So that's immediately who everybody's going to blame, regardless of whether LG is actually responsible for the hardware failures, because Google's branding it.
Sure.
But also, just like to play a little bit of devil's advocate, it's a little bit kind of almost ridiculous to have so many QC issues with a phone that costs $1,000. People are paying $1,000, and what they expect is a phone that's going to work. Then if it's going to be shipped without an OS, it's kind of a smear in the reputation of that company and may kind of push them away, especially if they were also a victim of the shipping issues last year. Then that's 2 straight years of problems for someone looking for an upgrade path. But I mean, mistakes happen, and the phone's not exploding yet, so we don't have a Note 7 issue on our end.
Plenty of places like, guys, stop freaking out about the Pixel XL2. Samsung had literally a phone that was blowing up, and they turned out fine. So
Right.
calm down.
Yeah, like
So
it's not a big deal.
On Twitter all over, like, Google gotta take this phone back. They get a refund every single person who bought the Pixel 2 XL because of all of these issues. It's like, guys, just relax.
And like they're trying to get a class action lawsuit going on things. You guys hear about that? Like
Yeah.
things that are victim of literally every phone with an AMOLED panel since the Note 5 or since the S5. Like literally every phone since it has an AMOLED panel has had burn-in issues. And if you hold it at some like if you hold it at some 20-degree angle, and I don't know anybody who uses their phone at a 20-degree angle or less, they're like, oh, the pixels turn blue. And it's like, okay, when are you gonna see that? Like, I don't it's people are blowing it way out of proportion, and it's a little bit like it irks me a little bit, rubs me the wrong way. I don't like it.
Now, I completely understand that too, but to play, you were playing devil's advocate to go the other way.
Mhm.
I mean, it's another example of companies, and I talked about this last week, how it's not just phones, it's everybody who's in tech. You see it with consoles all the time, phones all the time, and everybody wants to hit that date or beat that competitor, and the QC the quality just goes down. It's just going to, when you put a date out a year, 2, however long it is ahead of time to let people know, or at least internally you set that date,
Mm-hmm.
and you feel like you need to hit that date, you're going to do everything you can to hit that date because you know that you can fix it afterwards. And the issue becomes, well, if you took an extra month, would you have had these issues? Would you have gotten the bad press? No, you probably would have gotten, oh my God, look at how great of a release it was. You don't set that date. You can, I mean, it sucks, but you can surprise people like, hey, you know what? They're ready for pre-order right now because we know that it's good to go. Like, make an announcement, hey, next week or this coming Saturday, that's when we're going to have the pre-orders up because it's finally ready to go, instead of rushing your product out. And of course, you have to look at it from both sides. The investors want to know ahead of time when they can expect these dividends to come in, when they can expect the money to start flowing in. You owe it to them to give them some sort of leeway, and you always run the risk of that leaking. Mm-hmm. But it's people have gotten in this mode of, we need to release when we feel like people are going to want it, or when we can maximize, or whatever date we set internally. We can't stray from that. Well, it's when you start running into major issues like this, and like you said, last year you had a similar problem, that's when you need to reevaluate. And do we need to set these dates so far in advance? Can we take the extra week, 2 weeks, month to make sure that we're not dealing with these problems afterwards?
Right. And I completely agree with that. And also, to kind of segue and continue off of what you're saying, literally, I can't remember like a single release in tech that has not had issues in the very beginning. Like, there was problems with going as far back as like Xbox 360s and all the way back to like DVD players, and like just literally every piece of tech. The first run, everyone says, wait a little bit, wait until they get the problem solved, because there's going to be issues right as it releases. So like, it's almost expected. And the fact that tech journalists like across the board are reporting on these incredibly vague and obscure issues is like, it takes away from what otherwise is a fantastic phone.
Yep.
I mean, J-Buds has it, and I have the smaller version, and neither of us have had any issues. I've only had one of the problems that was listed on all of these articles, and the only reason why I heard it was because of a tech article. That's the only reason why I thought to look for it.
Yep.
Like otherwise I would have never noticed it. It was the
Exactly.
clicking in the earpiece from the NFC chip. Whenever you hold the phone up to your face, you can hear a small click in like a room. But like, I don't care if most times that any ambient noise will drown that out.
Yeah.
So
Kind of touching on what Kyle was saying with what seems like rushing these products to market. I think it's largely based around the competition with Apple, like how close their release dates were.
right.
You want to be riding that wave of what people are excited about. The Android versus iOS people, that's an ongoing, I guess you could say battle between the fanboys, the fan clubs of both. So each one wants to brag and say, yeah, I got this phone. You're still on the iPhone 7. And then the companies themselves, they want to outdo each other. So, I mean, like you said, Matt, I don't think it's worth like posting all these articles about these little indiscrepancies. I do think people are fishing a bit for bad press to put out. And
I saw an
They're
article.
fanboys for like every major manufacturer out there, so they're going to smear things whenever there's a glitch, or a little hiccup.
And when there's so many tech journalists out there and tech bloggers, you need to find something to write about every single day. So they're going to overhype something just to get that article out, just to get those clicks. So
I saw a thread on Reddit the other day of one of the people who were highlighting some of the screen issues on the 2XL, and they were like, oh, if you have it at this screen, like he's like, I'm not seeing the burn-in or the retention issue on the screen. And the first reply was like, oh, how about you try setting it to an all gray wallpaper and then turning your brightness down to 20%. And it's like, who's going to do that at
why
all?
would you?
Who's going to like be like, oh, is my annual turn my phone down to 20% brightness and set a gray wallpaper and look for burn-in roundtable? Like, oh, here we go. Like
that's going to be our mini episode this week is how to make sure that you can you regularly change your brightness to 20%. And
welcome to the Industry 4.0 episode where we place every phone in a Faraday chamber and look for all possible issues.
I have volunteered to sacrifice my phone and go without communications for the foreseeable future.
Yes.
Yeah, just for likes.
These are the best gray wallpapers out there.
They are. Want to see some burn-in? Here you go.
Logistically, it's got to be a challenge to have two different hardware manufacturers on one phone release. I mean, that's got to be a nightmare in itself. You always got to anticipate there's going to be difficulties encountered. But the other thing is, I want to know if there's like some kind of if these hardware manufacturers that make other cell phones, especially like LG, they feel some kind of way that Google's just like, oh, we're just going to take a chunk of HTC and make our own hardware now. These giants, and we're not even going to focus on little guys. We're going to focus on Apple. We're going to go right after the big fish. Little guys are out there going, wait a minute, we've been here first,
Yeah. I want to see next year's Pixels too, because that's going to be kind of the telling sign on where they're taking it as a company. Because now, like you said, they do have that entire division of HTC's best mobile development team. So seeing if it's going to be completely owned in house will be something that would be good to track, and how that goes for a phone release next year.
It might help them with not encountering these problems. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We
all know HTC made great phones.
Yeah.
So, but moving right along, as we could probably go on about we could probably rant about that all day. Jeff Bezos cashed out on quite a bit of money. He was selling his stock as he does annually, and he just so happened to cash out on $1 billion this time. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of walking around money.
I don't know if we mentioned this last week, but he recently became the richest man in the world, surpassing Bill Gates.
Oh man, and Zuckerberg.
Yes. Well, Zuckerberg he's been kind of up there, but not.
Yeah. Well, he's the richest under a certain age bracket, I think, is how that works. But it's also worth noting he doesn't really have any kind of foundation that Bill Gates has. So I wonder if Bill Gates' money wasn't sunk into the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, if he would pass him.
So Bill Gates pledged to give, I think, away 98% of his wealth by the time he passes away to charities, or just give it out, right? I don't know if Jeff Bezos is part of the same group because a lot of the CEOs joined that pledge. I know Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg did as well. But yeah, well, the rich get richer.
It'll be interesting to see how much of it goes into the article. Brings up a point at the end of the article talking about they're wondering if he may pour some of this into Blue Origin, his rocket company.
Yeah,
that would be an interesting thing. So he may look, maybe he's not that old, Jeff Bezos. So he may, as far as CEOs of multi-billion-dollar companies go, I feel like he could easily take that money and just pour it into his own assets until he gets to a certain point and then go into philanthropy, because that seems to be the route that a lot of these CEOs are taking, kind of taking that type of route. But I don't know.
Those guns though.
Yeah, from that picture, right?
That picture of him from the 90s, did you see that split photo of him in the 90s and him today? Like it just perfectly summarizes that whole change. It went from selling books to selling whatever the F he wants. Such a good meme. That was so good. But that was just a quick touch on that. And he's making $1 billion on one cash out. I could use a bit of 10 figures.
Can I just point something out really quick?
What's that?
You guys have that article up that we're referencing?
Mm-hmm.
Why in the world does he need a name tag? I'm just saying.
I don't know.
If you zoom in, it says Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos. Really? Okay.
It's like, oh, who's Jeff Bezos? Oh, you see that Terminator-looking guy walking around?
Yeah, you see that guy with like
in case
50s.
anybody's only seen the 90s photo. It's
That
like, no,
guy's-
it's me now.
That guy's literally
It's if
surrounded
you
by
get
security
distracted from those
guards.
guns, you can take a look at the name tag and remind yourself who you're looking.
Just had to say.
Yeah, but to move on from Jeff Bezos, we have a little bit of stuff to talk about with Logitech. I know, Jeff, you were kind of excited about this.
Yes.
Their VR keyboard kit, so you can type in virtual reality. I don't know if you wanted to go on a little bit about this or not, but it's made. It's going to be through Vive, right? The HTC Vive VR headset using a keyboard and tracking disc.
It's in proof of concept mode, so only a handful of developers are working with this right now. But basically, the idea is to let you use a keyboard in VR. And I've been looking forward to this day for a long time. I remember kind of dreaming about some kind of projector-based keyboard when I was a little younger, and now we're getting to a point where where AR and VR are going. It's looking more and more like this is becoming possible and probable even. With things like the wireless headsets that we've been talking about in recent episodes, I think it's going to be really interesting to see where just the personal computer world and I guess electronics in general are headed with the advent of technology like this. When you get to kind of going on a tangent here, but when you get to electronic systems where maybe you need to use like controls or joysticks, wheels, things like that, and now that can be accomplished using things like VR and AR, I think it's going to completely redefine the field and how operators perform their duties, as well as people on their PCs.
Right, and this could also be the first kind of break into like a workspace type of environment where you can set up your own workstation, and since you can see your keyboard, you can still function and like see your desk while you actually work.
Yeah.
So, and until they get something like gloves, so you can see your fingers and your hands typing on the keyboard, then it might be a little bit of a learning curve to it, since you'd have. Right now, all you have are the controllers that have all the sensors in them, but I don't think we're far off from the first VR headset with like gloves.
Yeah.
Or even just a new controller for the Vive just being a pair of gloves. So,
I mean, why not, right?
How's it tracking? Is it tracking the finger movements by another sensor, or I'm trying to look. I don't see anything on the actual tracking of it, or is it you have to get the special keyboard with that bridge?
It looks like it's only just the disc that comes with that. Yeah, the special keyboard.
Yeah. Well, it apparently like tracks your actual keyboard and presents that in VR.
Okay.
Yeah, so
All right.
it's
So
it
if you're
basically just
pressing the keys, it reflects that into VR, so you know what your.
it kind of just shows you your keyboard based on this disc so that you can type while you have the headset on, even though you can't see your actual keyboard. That's my understanding of it right now.
Yeah, it just
Um,
puts the keyboard in its actual physical location in front of you.
Right. So it's not
In
like
your-
it's not like a virtual keyboard where there is no physical one yet.
Yeah.
But that's where I'd like to see it head personally.
Yeah, once you can get it to see the hands, it'd be cool if it had some kind of infrared that it projected over top of the keyboard so you could see your fingers resting on the keys. That would be kind of cool.
Because I know if for the Oculus, or I get it works on the HTC Vive as well, but you can get called called Leap Motion, not Leap Motion, so something like that. Leap Motion, I think, is what it's called. It's an external sensor, and now they make it work with Oculus that lets you track your hands in real time in a VR game. So individual finger movements and everything. It's separate from a controller. So I was wondering if it used the same type of.
I don't think they go into that. I think this is just focused on the keyboard.
Okay.
I didn't see any mention of it, at least. So, but yeah, it's interesting news, and it's good to see kind of VR and AR kind of blending in order to kind of get to this point where, because I think you're going to need AR elements in VR if it's going to be successful. Kind of like how with the HTC Vive, there's a camera built into the front of it so you can see your keyboard. So, or you can see like your area around you in such a way. So it's another step in the direction of making VR more like less difficult for people to use while not like crashing and falling over their desk.
Right. It's kind of blending the two, AR and VR, with stuff like this too. So it's,
yeah, because I don't think
nice.
VR as it stands is going to be successful until AR can be fused into it.
Right.
Kind of make people a little bit more comfortable.
I think you and I kind of went into detail about that a couple weeks back, several weeks back. But yeah, I don't know, it's interesting and kind of. I mean, a humorous side comment. I was talking about VR yesterday. I was with a friend who had a PlayStation VR, and he had Rocket League up. And I was saying I was waiting for the day where you can play VR in Rocket League and you get to be the ball.
Oh god. Oh my god.
Get hit around and react to people.
I would just within minutes I would be throwing up on the floor.
Same.
I couldn't do it. It'd be cool though to like actually to play any game where if it's like a third person type game, it just puts you above the character in the world. So you can still look around, but like you're in the space. Like it's not like you're just playing with a TV in front of you or something like that. That would be cool.
Yeah, like and redefining third person games. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. But yeah. I don't know if anybody has anything they wanted to remark on that, but we do have some interesting news that happened with Twitter coming up.
A little bit.
If you want to drag our segue agonizingly into the next topic. But going on that, though, just to move into it, Trump's Twitter account was deactivated, which is interesting, to say the least. But
11 minutes.
What's that? 11 minutes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That can be I know we were talking about this a bit on the pre-show on kind of the implication of this, because this is the president's account. It was the real Donald Trump account. It wasn't the POTUS account. So there's a distinction there, but the fact that you can just kind of at a whim take down the leader of the country's primary communication account it can set a dangerous implication. I don't know if we want to go down that route for the conversation, but I'm curious on to your guys' thoughts on how this went down. It seemed as a bit of a benign article, but you can see a bit of a more dangerous implication around it.
Yeah. Ervin, you want to go ahead, or do you want me to jump in?
I mean, Twitter has been warned internally by employees that this type of privilege is available to quite a high number of Twitter employees and also third-party contractors within the company. And it looks like the person who took the Twitter account down was a third-party contractor. And a lot of those contractors are located in the Philippines and Singapore. So pretty much if anyone who has this type of privilege within the Twitter system, and they can suspend any account. So if someone wants to go rogue, which happened here, they can do that if they have the right privileges. So Twitter in the statement said they put in safeguards to prevent this from happening again in the future. This isn't the first time this happened either. Happened to past accounts as well, not just this isn't the first instance of it.
Right.
And,
It's my understanding this wouldn't be possible for the POTUS account.
Yeah,
but
it sounds.
Because I'm pretty sure there's certain rules and regulations around official government accounts on social media. And I think those do have exemptions built into the company to prevent them from having these actions taken on them. But
So
it's not the one he tweets on every day.
That's
So-
kind of what I was gonna say is if it's like his main form of communication is not the official government one, and you hold a position of power like that, where people are actively reading what you have to say from that medium, and it is, you know, a non-government affiliated company like Twitter, you know, any system can be compromised. So when you have that kind of you know, voice and you have that kind of audience, I think it's kind of a risky business to, you know, allow someone to speak on serious matters through that platform when it is vulnerable. Seeing, you know, how a rogue employee that works for Twitter didn't involve any hacking or anything could just take away the account. I think that the account being compromised in some way, I'm sure it's being watched for, but could have some serious implications if it were to happen.
The president should have some kind of like super cookie that follows him around, and any account that he is currently using at that time should not be able to be taken down, much in the similar way of like any plane he's in is Air Force One at that time. Like
Right.
any Twitter account he is Tweet Force One or something along those lines.
The super cookie, the new Air Force One.
Yeah. Tweet Force One. Donald Trump commandeering every account.
Must
It's like,
always
"Wait,
be paired
I need
with
your
this.
phone. I need to tweet something.
Must always be paired with a glass of super milk.
Yeah. Yeah. But I could, there should be something like that. Like they take whichever account that he's posting to more, and that becomes his official account, regardless, because it is the president. So I don't know. That's just a thought. Congress,
I just think a way to limit it in the future. And I don't know what kind of things they have around, like you said, the official government account or the official POTUS account. But what some former employees recommended is like, say that same account that he was using were to get hacked, you need people to have access to it to shut it down real quick. So you do kind of have to, toe that line. But I think that limiting the amount of people, maybe not allowing third-party contractors to have access to such an important account, like we said, even though it's not the official POTUS one, make sure a limited amount of people have access, but 24/7 coverage. So you have to, probably multiple countries, and high severe penalties for anybody who does something like this in the future, just because it is such an important medium for us at the moment.
right. It's how we get our news from the president. Even his Facebook just reposts the tweets that he's done. So that's it.
Yeah. Yes. There's not too much to say on that topic, but I know we had a certain order of our articles. I'm going to kind of switch it up a little here. There's been an investigation by the Associated Press on how Russia hacked the DNC's emails.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it's come to light that this was completed through phishing emails, which were sent to around 130 party employees and supporting staff. Not just one batch of emails, as you might assume, but this is a repeated attempt where basically, those who were trying to hack the DNC were making themselves look like they were Google and saying, hey, change your password, make it more secure. Then you get routed to a site that's not really owned by Google. And, you know, with repeated efforts like this, where they're going to more and more, I guess, higher power rungs of the DNC ladder, eventually they got far enough up the chain where they sent an email to the campaign chairman, who's John Podesta, with a malicious link that was clicked on and gave access to around 50,000 of his emails.
It's in the end, it reminds me, I think we talked about it before. There's this picture of and it's like a boxing ring, and in one corner you have like crazy like hardware and like tech and security and all these signs where it says like internet security, firewalls, and all that. And then it says in the other corner you have Bob, and it just says end user on his shirt. And it's like, no matter how much stuff you have, it's all it takes is one end user to just be a victim of a phishing attack, and you can get access to all the systems.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Yeah, social engineering is huge. It's sometimes bigger than actual like hacking. Trying to get people to trust you, give you access, and like getting even physical access. I'm fascinated by that stuff. Trying to trick people into clicking on certain things to gain access to get the passwords and things.
That's why I second guess all of your links.
It does happen a lot. I mean, recently I was staying in a hotel and I got a phone call that said, hey, this is the hotel front desk. We lost your reservation info, so we have to rebill it. Can you confirm your billing address and your name and all this email? I was like, I'm going to come down to the front desk. They're like, oh, never mind. Turns out it was a scammer on the phone. So like this,
nice.
This is happening in all different kinds of forms. Everybody beware.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary, man.
It is. So don't be careful who you're trusting on the phone. You know, if you can, try and get another form of validation of who you're talking to, and you know,
Especially when you're out and about like that. Like,
secure
That's
information.
Oh man.
and that's more physical security than cybersecurity, man. That's dangerous.
These email leaks, the phishing attempts happened in March 2016. It wasn't until later in April that the DNC realized there was a breach. So that's, you know, at least a month that they went not knowing they were compromised.
Yeah, it's a long time.
It is. And lots of things can be done with the information it's gained. You know, you're not getting it back at that point.
Mm-hmm. I love the names of these hacking groups too. The one is the DNC. The article says, to directly quote it, the DNC publicly accused Fancy Bear as a Russian-backed group that broke into their systems, and the hacker was Guccifer 2.0, which I know Guccifer was known for other hacks in the past, but these names, man.
I wonder if they make them ridiculous just because they know they're going to be in news articles where it's like the DNC versus Fancy Bear.
I mean, I would trust him even though I got from Fancy Bear. So
Yeah,
like, clearly, I mean, he's a fancy bear. You can't be mad at him.
It's not just your average bear. He's
cuddly
fancy.
and lovable. It's like Winnie the Pooh's really nice, fancy cousin. You know,
It's the animal equivalent of a tuxedo T-shirt.
Oh man, but
Anyways.
it doesn't. That shouldn't take away from what actually happened. It's still bad that people are. But it's just, it comes down to we need more training on people to like take phishing courses, because it happens everywhere. It happens to every company. Same thing with WannaCry. It started off as a phishing attempt for half of those companies.
Yep. It's looking.
it doesn't matter how powerful you are, how much security you have. You got to be careful.
You got to know
It's that simple.
what to look for, because this is, you know, detail as small as getting rerouted to a website that's not what you thought it was, and not noticing, and you're clicking away and what have you, entering a new password. So there, I think the public in general should brush up on their you know, knowledge of phishing schemes and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it comes to something like politics, where it determines essentially the fate of our country. It's a huge deal, and you really, really, really need to be aware of these kind of things.
Yeah, I posted that cartoon in the Twitch chat too. So anybody who's watching the stream can check that out. And it was just, I thought it was something I thought was very relevant to this. But
that is amazing. He's facing the wrong way too. It's great.
his shirt just says human error. But
so
yes, what's that?
No, I'm just kind of moving forward. We have a topic that's not really closely related to what we've been talking to, but kind of just an interesting, nugget of information regarding technology to close out the first half. Yeah. So researchers have used subatomic particles to find mysterious structure inside of Giza's Great Pyramid. So they're calling it the Big Void, and it's approximately 100 feet long. But essentially, they're trying to find ways to avoid boring holes and drilling, etc., into ancient structures like this to explore them, because you're basically going to ruin them in the process. So it's above it's called the Grand Gallery, which is it connects two large rooms inside the pyramid, which are called the Queen's Chamber and King's Chamber. So this was done by tracking particles, which are called muons.
I didn't even know these existed.
I've heard of them. I didn't really read up on them until I saw this news. But yeah, when apparently cosmic rays come in, they're permeating our universe. And when they come down through the atmosphere, they break down and make like what's described in this article as subatomic confetti that rains down on Earth at approximately the speed of light. So basically, they can drift easily through objects like stone. So by seeing how they travel, you can detect gaps in spaces in structures like the pyramid. And it's compared to X-rays for how you can look at when you break a bone or something like that. So this is really cool, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think you could do a lot with this kind of technology. What do you guys think?
Yeah, even for replacing X-ray, this could be incredible technology. Just even like the fact that this exists is like insane enough to me. Like muons, like these phase article, like these particles that can pass through walls and stuff and air. Like not only is it there, but like the fact that we figured out how to detect them is like crazy,
mind blowing.
Yeah, yeah, it's nuts.
It looks like they said they've already used this technology to look at the nuclear reactors at Fukushima. So it's already being put to practical use.
Yeah.
The tough part for me is, I mean, I know how cool this is, but the tough part for me to get behind is that if this does reveal what they think it's revealing, and it's like an internal purpose, it's purposely built to help build the pyramid itself, it's just going to shut down so many of these crazy conspiracy theorists and all these crazy shows on Discovery Channel. We're going to miss out on a huge piece of media and the world, really. I mean, you're just going to start shutting down all these alien theorists, and it's going to be a disappointing day in America for when that happens. I really do believe it's.
Hey man, I see where you're going with this, but this is low resolution technology at the moment. If they get into HD, you never know. You might like zoom in and see ET winking at you in there. Maybe it'll just, prove everyone right. Yeah.
It's gonna have some range.
Surprise.
Yeah, maybe aliens are just chilling in there like, it's nice in here. It's nice and cool. We like it cool. It's cold out in space. You ain't never been there?
They found our stash, man. They found our stash.
You see one dude put his hand up to the camera like,
no pictures, please. No pictures.
Meanwhile, Giorgio's like sweating profusely, like worried about ancient aliens being shut down. Trying quickly to look for a pivot. But
that being said, it is really cool. I mean, if you're into this kind of stuff, the biggest worry has always been like, are we disturbing the way these things should still be? I mean, just looking at obviously the pyramid itself, not looking at future uses or potential future uses. I mean, it's just really cool to see us finally getting to a point where we don't have to disturb history to learn about it, which is like, I'm not into all history, but things like this are really, really cool. If you really want to go deep dive on it, you can just get like your head is just overwhelmed with information and cool ideas and conspiracy theories, the whole nine. I mean, it really gets you thinking about how life was before all the things that we're talking about, all the things that we love today. So it's for anybody interested, it's a huge piece of technology to help us learn more about the world before we knew it.
And even like you're saying, like non-invasive form of exploring ruins, then having this technology enables that when you do find something to minimize the damage that you cause in order to explore it if you wanted to. Say like they could drill a small pipe to it and just send a drone up through it to check it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, instead of clearing out a huge section of the interior and having people explore it. Right. So I think that could be some pretty cool tech going forward for like you're saying, minimizing damage to ancient structures.
And if it can help with x-rays, I get a lot of those, so that would be awesome too.
Yeah.
So.
How cool would it be if they developed something where it could pass through like the ground? So instead of like excavating, you could look for fossils and things like that with subatomic particles.
Cool.
Yeah.
Could look for water underground. If you're colonizing Mars, supposedly, you could look for the other types of elements underground.
Yeah,
and if you had a powerful enough sensor, do you think you could X-ray entire planets? Maybe with this technology, like how far does this thing pass through stuff? Like,
right? What's the range on these instruments?
Drop it around the entire planet, and they all kind of merge together. And that'd be cool.
I think it would be detecting the nuances from a large distance that would be difficult with that. Like, because these are everywhere in the universe. So basically what it's saying is, you see how they behave. That's how you can tell what's in the pyramid. It'd be really hard to do that with like a insanely powerful telescope on a planet far away.
And even if this goes as far as replacing X-ray, it's a non-radioactive way of checking bone health and seeing the inside of people for health issues.
What I really want to know is, can this technology cook my Hot Pocket?
It's on its way, brother. It's on its way.
One way to find out. Yeah.
I need my Pop-Tart toasted. Please send help.
Stat.
You're gonna have the first Muon powered microwave.
Dream big, boys. Dream big.
I really hope they call the first high powered sensor Moana.
Moulin Rouge.
Moana. That's just Pixar movie.
All right, I think we should stop before we get ahead of ourselves too much. So, any closing notes from anybody?
Giorgio from Ancient Aliens, your days are numbered. That's all I have to say.
My final notes are, even if you're in power, security is important, and death to the alien conspiracy theorists about Egypt. That's it.
Yeah,
it was nice knowing you guys.
Could have said it better myself. But with that being said, I think that brings an end to the first half. So you guys stick around. We'll be getting ready for the second half in a little bit. This has been Industry 4.0, and see you guys later.
Hey, everybody out there. Thank you for coming back for the second half. This is episode 26 of Industry 4.0. Still everybody's surviving for the second half. Got a full squad still holding it down for you if you're watching live on Twitch this early Sunday morning. For those not watching on Twitch and you want to watch us live, check out Industry 4.0 on Twitch. Just search it all spelled out. Industry, FOUROH. We can find us anywhere. You can find us also on multiple mediums, multiple streams. We are available on Google Play and iTunes in audio format. You can find links directly on Facebook and Twitter to both the videos afterwards and the podcast links. Facebook, we even have it embedded. You can watch the streams and the videos right there on Facebook. We are hosted on Podbean, so industry40.podbean.com. And we'll plug the rest, some awesome beats, some awesome side projects at the end. Any way you guys watch us, way you guys bring us in, it's always appreciated. One thing that's always appreciated is if you give us some feedback. So let us know what you guys are thinking, what topics you want us to talk about. If you like what we bring to the table, let us know. If you think we could be doing things better or talking about a wider range of stuff, make sure you let us know. Comment, subscribe, rate. The reviews really do matter. The rates really do matter. And it makes us feel good for these early Sunday shows that we're bringing you some stuff you love. So make sure you guys check us out as we merge the first half with this brand new second half, leading us into a merge that didn't quite happen as people expected it to. T-Mobile and Sprint merger talks have officially ended. The companies weren't able to find mutually agreeable terms. Anybody want to talk on this in more detail? Are you happy, sad, surprised, disappointed, anything all on above, range of emotions? What are you guys thinking about this?
Overall positive. And much like a shot trying to get past Dikembe Mutombo, it was blocked.
Oh, snap.
So I think this is a good news instead of going from would you call it a quadopoly to a triopoly? So I think it's a big step in antitrust, especially with the current FCC chairman as it stands. So it's good that I think it's a very sensible move. I'm overall very happy with it.
I feel the same way as I did when the AT&T and T-Mobile merger got shut down as well. Very positive. I was never a huge fan of Sprint. So I wasn't looking forward to if this was going to go through. I was like, what would that do to I mean, they would increase the subscriber count and try to give it more probably leverage to compete with the bigger guys. But I like what T-Mobile is doing by itself right now.
Mm-hmm.
That way, not muddle up the waters with a merger and trying to bring that entire Sprint system into the mix.
It would be nice. And it looks like it was largely driven by T-Mobile. And the two companies have mutually decided that there just isn't enough benefit to actually go through with this merge. I don't think it explicitly calls out if it was blocked by any organization or any congressional power, but if it had gone that far, I would have liked to have seen some kind of action where they did say, hey, this is an antitrust, because that's literally what it is. You have two of the four of the largest phone companies merging, or phone providers.
Yeah, I think for the FCC or FTC, Federal Trade Commission, to be involved, starting to be involved, the companies have to officially announce a merger or a plan to merge, which never happened. So it never got that far. That's what happened to the AT&T T-Mobile deal. So the T-Mobile actually got announced of like, yep, we plan on merging, got submitted to be approved by the governing agency. And then it was turned down. And T-Mobile actually was smart in that case and put a clause in their contract to say if the merger was not approved, they would get a huge chunk of spectrum, as well as I think around $3 billion. I might be a little bit off on that, but it was quite a big chunk of change. So actually T-Mobile made out really good in that failure of a deal because they were smart enough to put that into the contract, and AT&T was dumb enough to agree to that for whatever reason. Actually gave that denial of a deal actually gave T-Mobile a lot of leverage, which got them to where they are today. A lot of improvements, a lot of spectrum, a lot of cash to do what they're doing, to how aggressively they're attacking the market, how attacking the big guys, and doing great at it. So that AT&T T-Mobile deal failing was a good thing. I think the same thing, Sprint and T-Mobile not merging again is probably I feel is good.
I wouldn't be surprised if this wasn't the end, though. Apparently, they were, they started these talks back in 2014, then they fell off the table. Started again in May, I believe it was, earlier this year, springtime, and then they renewed again in September. That they were really close on something. Apparently people feel like Sprint is in desperate need of a merger of some sort, and apparently they've left the door open to do other types of mergers where it's not like a complete company merge, but they work on some things together. Certain aspects of the company might merge. I would not be surprised if soon Sprint goes back to T-Mobile like, hey, you know that counteroffer that we made. I'm sorry, the counteroffer that you guys made, it's sounding a lot better now if they continue to go in the direction they're going. So
Right.
Do you want as many providers out there as possible? Yeah. I mean, you don't want it to come down to just people buying out until there's one or two giants left. But it's not looking good for Sprint apparently. So I wouldn't be surprised to see these talks renewed again in the new year either.
Yeah, when Sprint's price goes down significantly, right? As T-Mobile continues to do their thing and improving their network and getting more subscribers, and Sprint continues to decline that it's been going on recently, T-Mobile is just probably waiting for a cheaper price, and then when they're nice and cheap, they'll snatch them up.
That's just how capitalism works.
Yes.
And hopefully that would drive Sprint to kind of pick up its slack and try to actually compete instead of just trying to sell itself off or to merge with other companies, because that's what I think this industry needs. They need more competition in the telecom provider space, because look at what T-Mobile's been able to do to Verizon and AT&T. Now everybody offers unlimited data plans again, albeit you get capped at a certain rate, but you don't get ridiculous overage fees, and you don't get hit with all that stuff. It's just a data cap at a certain gigabyte limit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been fantastic for anyone looking to get into that market, where T-Mobile has their one plan and Sprint has their unlimited plans, and now Verizon and AT&T do, and they're all just it's competition. It's healthy. It's a good time to be looking for a big four telecom data plan, because they're all good in their own regards. I mean, there are some issues with each one, but that's not what the point of this article is. But I can walk back my Dikembe comment because that wasn't an actual block, but I would hope that this would be blocked going forward should this happen again. And I know I see that Kyle's doing the nut in my house finger wave, and it would be cool to see going forward, because I saw at the end of the article that Sprint mentioned that they're in the summer they are in the preliminary talks with Charter on a potential merge, which is a smaller telecom company, and it would be good to see some kind of official action from the FTC or the FCC on just a block. That would be the FTC, right? Who would block this type of merge? Yeah. So I would hope that they would see this as antitrust and block it. But we'll see going forward. Maybe we'll be reporting on this again when they come up with a revised offer a few months down the line.
Side note. Oh, go ahead. I thought you were
I was going to say, just like you guys have said earlier, I don't think this is the end of it. So, but yeah, go ahead.
Side note, I still have and will prove it. I still have a Mutombo jersey. So,
oh man,
maybe we'll post pics of me swatting people on the Facebook. I don't know who I'm swatting, but I'll figure it out. Every
time we do a live stream after something has been blocked by the FTC, you got to rock the jersey.
I'll just have it on the bed ready to go anytime.
But yeah, I think this is a good thing. I'm very happy when large companies like this don't merge. So we'll see going forward. But we do, aside from this, there's a rather Apple heavy bit of news that we have going forward. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but now with the release of the iPhone 10, now Apple has to completely retrain people on how to use iOS, now that it has a completely different UI and different design. Most of it's
time with out of home button since launch, which is crazy. So people
are running out of stuff to remove.
Yeah, people have been used to using that home button for 10 years if they were on the iPhone, right? Now
Mhm.
Apple has to work on trying to retrain and get better or get them more familiar with the new type of. And I think this is a hint at what's to come, right? The future of the iPhone is probably going to be this gesture type of interface instead of that home button. I'm not sure when they will finally or eventually phase all of it out, but I think it's coming.
Yeah, and it's confusing. Like if I was just given this device, I honestly would be like, how do I get back? How do I get to the home screen? Or like, and some of the early tech reviewers have reported that like it is a bit of a learning curve at first, and those are for people who go through probably dozens of phones a month and dozens of phones and all of them, and it's just a completely different UI experience separated from not even just iOS but from Android. The fact that they don't have a home button built into the screen, and it's interesting to see that Touch ID is no longer a part of that, because they always touted for years that their fingerprint technology was the fastest and the most accurate of all phones out there, and for a while it was. And it's just interesting to see them remove the technology when they could have easily just like turned the Apple logo in the back into a fingerprint sensor or something like that.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was just discussing this the other day with somebody, and how one of the biggest reasons that Apple has seen such widespread success with the iPhone, it's still, it's still making so much money. Maybe not selling as many units, but still making so much money. It's, in my mind, it's been a lot of it. Obviously, I think it was like the cool thing when it first started. Like, oh, look, I have all this Apple stuff. I'm awesome. And I think it's turned into the fact that the user experience is so easy. It's so simple. And the fact that they're doing such a grand change, such a grand switch is, like you said, I mean, you're eliminating things that made it so easy to use to introduce new technologies, but you have to do this. You have to teach people how to use your technology now, when, again, for 10 years, it's been almost the exact same every single time. So it's funny that I was just having a discussion, not even related to the podcast, about Android versus iOS, and how simple the iOS was made on purpose, and now we have to reteach everyone. So it's kind of it's a pretty common thing to talk about, especially with people who aren't even that heavy into technology, as I was talking to about this in the first place.
You can watch their guided tour video. It's like the first time that they had to do a guided tour for the original iPhone. They have says they released the video, which is like a 4.5-minute video where they go over all the basic gestures that buyers of the phone will have to perform. It's like kind of an homage back to, like I was saying, their original iPhone, which they had to train people how to use. So it truly is a new start for them in terms of their OS, and I wonder if they're going to completely phase over into this new gesture-based system for all of their devices next year, or if they're going to continue offering that familiar form factor with Touch ID to people in new latest generation devices. Because I know that they're going to have this line going forward for the next however many years, but it will be interesting to see if this is their de facto UI for mobile going forward, and if even this kind of goes into the iPad a little bit too. This will be interesting to see if they do that.
I would think that they would. If they can do away with the headphone jack, I think they could do away with the home button. But
it's very courageous.
So while so now iPhone X users might have extra time to actually watch that guide to learn about how to use their phone, because they can't actually activate their phone. So they just watch that guide while their activation servers are being fixed for certain telecom companies. There's been issues reported by AT&T, Verizon, and Sprint users. T-Mobile not in that list, so T-Mobile's not having issues according to this Verge article. That the people are seeing the message that it says activation server is temporary unavailable for when they try to activate their new iPhone 10.
Yeah, I was gonna say, meanwhile, John Legere's over there, like fingers crossed, like, yes, the plan is executing as planned.
It's probably John Legere DDoSing everyone else's activation servers.
Yeah. He's mad because that merge didn't go through.
Yes. So yeah, it's been. I'm not sure if it's because of the number of phones. I know there's been a lot of talks previously that what the stock is going to be available for the iPhone X. As a lot of it was talk about how limited of a stock, because they have trouble. Apple's going to have trouble manufacturing it. So I don't know if it's that those were actually not true, and they sold quite a bit more than these telecom companies were expecting, so that everyone's hitting their activation servers all the same time. That's causing this issue. But yeah, some people are having this.
No, man. They may have trouble with their activation servers, but according to the picture at the top of the article, that guy's definitely not having a problem missing all of his phone calls. He's got 200 missed calls. It's ridiculous. And over 5,500 missed emails. 5.2 thousand missed emails. That stuff is infuriating. Like, check your phone calls,
or at least turn the little red thing off, because you're not doing anything with it. Like the notification. Don't just turn that off. You can turn it off in settings. It's easy.
Yeah, but
conspiracy theory. I think I know whose fault it might be that this is happening.
Whose fault is it?
It's someone involved at Best Buy, because they are mad about the public outcry about them stealing that extra $100 from everybody.
Yeah, it could have been.
They're like, no, you know what? Shut it down. No one's getting in.
The whole thing.
No one can use the phone.
Best Buy is the ringleader of the tech market.
Yeah. They're the fancy bear of the activation servers.
Yeah. Or it could be those robbers who stole 300 iPhone X's from a UPS truck.
Ooh.
Trying to activate all those devices all at the same time. Could be that as well.
Yeah. Is it a DDoS if it's just that many people trying to activate iPhones?
That's some crappy server right there. If it's 300 iPhones, can take it down.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another story. It says in this Verge article, 3 husky men wearing hoodies broke UPS truck.
Is this a dog-man hybrid? A husky man?
Man dog iPhone.
Broke into a UPS truck parked outside an Apple store in San Francisco and stole over 300 iPhone X10 devices.
Isn't it absurd that 300 of these things are worth $370,000?
Yeah.
Just saying.
I was going to say that. I was like, it looks like a lot on the surface, but then you're like, it's only like 300, whatever. It's only 300.
You take 300 phones and you can buy a house for it. Like,
yeah. And Ervin, it's okay. You can say iPhone X. You're among friends. You don't have to say Tom.
Yeah, keep.
If you don't want to.
Nah, dude, the YouTube commenters are going to troll him now. You can't do it.
Yeah, it's the 10. That is the official name provided by our Lord and Savior Tim Cook. But
yeah, actually, that movie with Vin Diesel in it was actually called 30.
Oh, that's perfect. Oh God.
10 men.
Deus 10 Machina.
10 men. Yeah.
Yeah, 10 men.
10 men.
Oh, that was perfectly timed.
That's why I get invited to the show every week for the weak humor.
Oh man,
yeah, I'm actually surprised this doesn't happen more often.
Yeah,
it's not like people. It's not like it's hard to figure out that UPS is dropping off stuff to tech places. Like I'm shocked this hasn't happened more. I remember at my old employer there was a huge back and forth between myself and my corporate office over whose fault it was that I sent a box of devices. I'm sorry, a store sent a box of smartphones to me, and then when I opened it, they were all missing. And it's I mean, it wasn't $300,000 phones. It was, whatever, like 4 devices. And then I had a similar issue where I sent a box back to our warehouse, and the phones were missing when they got there. They're like, yeah, it's just a box with nothing in it. Why would you send us that? I was like, I didn't. Are you crazy? Like, no. Yeah, I sent it with nothing in it. It was like, no, there's $1,000 worth of stuff in there. Sure, totally. Like, of course, those are small examples, but I'm surprised that this doesn't happen more often where UPS just gets jacked for thousands and thousands.
Yeah. So the article was very succinct in its description too. for like the whole event as it happened.
I'm curious about two things here. I didn't think they'd stock one truck with that much worth of like such small devices. Like if it's like, I don't know, like if you could fit into just like a, I don't know, a sedan or something, like everything you're stealing is worth over $250,000. That seems like something you might want to think about before you pack the truck. And also it's saying that these thieves were tracking the truck and knew what was in it. So that also makes me think that they had some insider help at UPS, or they somehow got into a system where they could track where things were going. So might have bigger fish to fry than just some iPhones going missing here.
I don't know how it works because I mean I've seen people like again when I used to work at GameStop, I'd be sitting there waiting for a shipment to come in of say like a hard to find thing like the NES Classic or the Wii U when it first came out, and people would come in and be like, "Oh yeah, I know that it's on the truck today, so I'm waiting." How do you know that? Like they're not looking to rob UPS; they just want to buy one, but they're like, "Yeah, I know that it's on its way today." I'm like, "How?" I don't even know that.
They just
A
want
lot
a
of
bowl.
time.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's tracking. I don't know if like someone's leaking like, "Hey, Wii U's were released today," or you know, the resupplies are out. I don't know how it happens, but you're right. It's if people who aren't even trying, you know, for nefarious means, if they're just trying to purchase something, if they have easy access to it and they know, imagine people who are, like you said, trying to steal these things from people. It's kind of crazy to think about.
I mean, the truck was parked outside an Apple store too.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's
It's kind of dead giveaway. You just sit there and wait for them to be there a little bit longer than usual, and you're like, "Yep, here it is."
Yep.
In San Francisco, right near Apple's headquarters, so you know it's gonna be full of iPhones. Is one of the most popular, like where the people line up. It next to like New York City or somewhere else. People line up, so you're expecting these Apple stores to get hundreds of devices on hand to give out on the day that it's released. So.
Right.
I'm not really sure where they go from here with this. If the serial numbers are cataloged, like what do you do with that? Just sell it on the street? Be like, give me $50 for this iPhone 10.
They actually did say that, yeah, since they are cataloged, it'll be tough for them to sell. So,
And
we'll see where that goes.
There is a blacklist that all the carriers here in the U.S. at least follow. So if that IMEI serial number is part of that blacklist, it'll refuse the activation. Wait, hold on. Maybe all those people who can their phone actually are using the stolen one.
I had that same revelation. Oh my god! I think we just solved the case.
Guys, get ready for this. Okay, in 2018, there's going to be a Ben Affleck produced, directed movie about this. The iPhone 10 heist.
San Francisco PD, we do take Venmo, just so you know. And not to discredit the San Francisco Police Department in any way, and I'm sure they're doing a good job at this whole investigation, but the quote that was provided in this article was the most matter-of-fact and like unnecessary thing to state, I think. They're like, given the dollar value of the incident, it appears it was planned. It's like, like I don't think they like walked by, saw an open UPS truck, and were like, all right, no, let's just take some iPhones, let's go.
Yeah, I was just gonna go get a coffee, but might as well.
Coffee, truck full of iPhone 10s. I mean, like, yes, it was planned. I feel like that 100% was planned.
I happen to have this big white van with me today, and there's no driver in the truck. I mean.
Yeah,
there's just a giant marker written iPhone X.
Yeah,
sticking out of the door. It's what else would you do? You know?
It's like, wow, good thing I brought my Sprinter. I really need to take these iPhones somewhere.
There's a couple other good quotes in this article too. It appears the suspects knew what they were looking for, and the other one is, if you're going to purchase stuff, go to an actual store to purchase it. That's all from the police department. Just saying.
But not Best Buy, not that store.
These clearly San Francisco Police Department is anti-Amazon. That's what I got out of this.
Yeah. Again, these are just more problems with Silicon Valley.
They're against drone.
All these
meter
articles
maids.
tie together in some way, guys. We got this.
Right. It's like a quilt of news.
It is. We're just weaving the quilt of Silicon Valley news. But
sorry.
Speaking of I can't even segue anymore. I'm just going to go into the next article. Apple's sharing the face mapping data from their iPhone 10s with third-party app developers. This seems like one of those things that like it's only getting as much news because it's sharing face data and not fingerprint data. Because I'm pretty sure that this is in the same way of them sharing Touch ID data with apps, so that way they can do kind of authentication to sign in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I'm not sure how much of the data that actually is visible, but it's kind of like sort of going against what he said. Like, oh, this is secure. We keep all this data securely, and we're not going to share it with third parties, but you're sharing with app developers, which sort of makes sense if you're a developer, because if you want, let's say, a banking app, you want to authenticate, and you were previously using Touch ID to authenticate to get that app. Now you have to use Face ID, so you do have to share some data in between the app and the sensors. But I'm hoping that there's some sort of obfuscation in between, that it's the iPhone itself doing that authentication and just giving the app a ping that, yep, that's the person who they say, and the actual app developer is not actually seeing the raw data that the Face ID is giving off, which would be, I think, a big, very oversight.
It says all the information itself is encrypted, but the data itself may be used. But I wonder if this is going to be shared with like Snapchat or something like that.
I think that could be.
Right.
Yeah.
Facebook.
Facebook.
To improve their.
Well, I don't know if Facebook needs Apple's help identifying faces at this point.
Right, they already have it.
It's literally called Facebook. Like, but I was wondering the same thing. I'd like to think that Ervin's, I mean, in terms of authenticating, I think that they would just take like a message from the OS that says, yeah, this is the right person. Because I mean, apps, we talked about this a couple weeks ago too, with fingerprints inside an app. Like I was using financial apps, we were talking about how secure that is. I would assume it's the same thing. Like it's not like they're sending it to that app and saying, let's check this fingerprint for this guy. Like I wouldn't think they would do that, but I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. And it's called Face ID, not face everything about your life is collected in this device. Like it could be that they're just, like you said, using it just for purely authentication purposes. And I think that's what it is.
I want to comment too. I mean, there is a workaround here, guys. And they quoted this when they talked about this in September. If you are worried about this, you could just opt out of Face ID. aka you just buy the iPhone 10 for the different screen with no home button.
You just using that pin.
Face ID, who needs it? You know?
Yep.
It's easy. Just say no.
Yep. That's it. I wonder how many people are going to put like a tape thing over it, like they do with laptops.
Probably a lot.
Yeah. I never understood that when people put like tape or like a cover over their phone's front camera, because nobody tells them that they also have a magnometer, a barometer, an altimeter, a gyroscope, and not only that, but a rear camera.
Or like a microphone.
Yeah, microphone. Yeah, not even just like the sensors in the phone.
If you do not want to be sensed, then do not get a smartphone.
Yeah. OtterBox is going to be releasing a Faraday chamber phone case where it kills off all of the sensors on the device.
2 references to Faraday in one episode. I love it.
Yeah.
If you can throw in a Tesla coil in here somewhere, I'll be really impressed.
What a great scientist, both of them.
I don't know if you guys saw the part about the restrictions that are already in place for this. So Apple has threats of enforcement and banning people from the App Store if they violate their terms on sharing the Face ID data. Mm-hmm. They say that data can never be used for advertising or marketing, and it cannot be bundled and sold to analytics companies or data brokers. It also bans developers from creating profiles or otherwise anonymous users by using identifying facial capture information. They cite their how strict they are on their app review process, and then their hardline stance on privacy issues, again, resulting in bans from the App Store. So basically, they're telling people like, hey, listen, we have all these things in place, and we double check everything before it goes to the market to make sure they're following these rules. If they're not following these rules, we're kicking them out. So I mean, they are giving you a little bit of an explanation of how, or a little bit more to make you more comfortable with the with them using this data. But like Ervin said, I mean, it's going against what they said initially that they weren't going to share it. So it's, but I also completely agree with if you don't want it and you feel uncomfortable, don't freak out about it. Just say no instead. It's super easy.
Yeah.
It's all, I mean,
don't use a 4-digit one, use a 6-digit one because that's safer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or you crack exponentially.
Or use an actual passcode that you type out instead of just numbers.
Yeah.
That's what I do. But
no means no.
Yeah, so this all kind of circles into targeted advertising in general. And I used to do some research when I was in going to my college for like environmentally aware media display platforms, which like basically my kind of take on it was to use a camera and be like, oh, there's a lot of tall people here. Let's put an ad up for big and tall, you know, like, or something like that. This is getting to the point where like between Facebook and like your phone, like Face ID and things of that nature, I hope it stays away from this, but it could really get to the point where if like, I don't know, a lot of big sales companies get into this game, it could be where when you walk somewhere, it's like, this guy was just researching all this. Let's try and sell him it right now because he's here. Or I would hope that the companies involved and parties involved handle this responsibly, because that's a slippery slope to go down. And really, if we're being honest, if they decide someday where they can get it through legislation where it's okay to do that, I don't really know what we can do to stop that, or if people will take steps to do that.
Taking it a step further, I could even see like targeted advertising through like AR.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I could see it happening where, excuse me, you see some of these things arise where it's not widespread yet, and then the public outcry is so negative towards it that they just find a different way to integrate it, or a different like we hated pop-up ads, but then they were just like, well, let's just put 30 seconds at the beginning of a video and see if people complain. And it's like, well, we patiently wait there 30 seconds for it to go by. It's like we stopped complaining. So I think you'll see some things, the public outcry will be so bad and they'll find a new way to go about advertising using this data. Yeah. And it's unavoidable. I mean, advertising is such a huge part of the internet, money-wise, and how people make money online. It's like you said, I mean, it's almost unavoidable, but you hope that the public outcry will be great enough that they find a more responsible way to do it.
Yeah, there's a simple solution to that. We talked about it before. JavaScript Bitcoin mining in your web browser in place of advertising.
Yeah, it's true.
I could see that being an alternative as well, which would be probably a good outcome. Like you go into a website where instead of it's like, hey, this website uses cookies, it's like, hey, this website would like to use your web browser to mine JavaScript, and in return, you won't see ads on this website.
It's kind of like paying for the ads in a way, but
Actually, I love that idea. I'd rather trade CPU cycles than actually view ads, because ads just horrible.
Ads are awful, and time is money.
Ads get better, which I don't see that happening. They just keep getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I brought up this when we talked about that Bitcoin mining in the beginning. Like, turn off JavaScript and see what happens to your web browser. Like, it's unusable. So like, they're doing it anyway. They might as well use it to take away advertising from me. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
And then you can always leave the option there. So people, like we said, people seem to be really uncomfortable when the term Bitcoin is even used, and mining and stuff like that. People get really uncomfortable. So you give the option. Hey, the only pop-up on the website is, hey, would you like us to show you advertisements, or we could do this? Either way, that's how we make. And I mean, people would have to do, this is getting next level, but people would have to do releases and explain these things. And I think people like us, or people even with more of a traction, more of a following, letting people know what that means when it starts to happen, make sure that the public is educated on what exactly is going down, is going to be important to that becoming a possibility in the future, because people understand ads. They've seen ads and heard ads since the advent of audio and video in the home. That's what people are used to. So introducing this new medium to not only the people making the money off of it, but the people who are avoiding these advertisements that we hate so much is going to be, and the education behind it is going to be really important.
Yeah. And usually, like, to bring it back to the Apple stuff, like, this even goes into security too. So like you guys were saying, have a longer PIN code, or use a password, or say no to the Face ID. Like, typically the easier a technology is, usually the less secure it is. So if people are that concerned about security, or they are that concerned about keeping their information to themselves, whether it's to prevent targeted advertising or just to feel safer with a brand new device, use a PIN code, use a password. Don't let them collect that Face ID. Don't let them collect your fingerprint, whatever. That's the way that someone can get around that type of stuff. Or if they want to take action now, because we don't have Bitcoin advertising in place of, or Bitcoin mining in place of ads and stuff like that. So,
yeah, and it's a shame because a lot of people, excuse me, see that feature and they're like, oh, well, this is the reason I'm getting the phone. I need this feature. It's so cool. But don't you use the data, even though I'm giving it to you voluntarily, because there's other options. It's a catch-22 a lot of times where the public wants the thing that you told them that they want, but they don't want you to do anything with it. Well, it's, I mean, it can't go, you can't have it both ways. It's one or the other. You either avoid the thing that they can use and like, don't give it to them, or you give it to them and they're going to use it. It's one or the other. They need to, I mean, they're a huge corporation. I guess they don't quote unquote need to make money, but their job is to make as much money as possible. So they're going to use every little bit of data that they have to do so.
And that's the dangerous thing too. They're like, the difference between the fingerprint and this is it's your face and not your fingerprint. There's a lot more you can do with a face than you can a fingerprint in terms of advertising and generating revenue.
Yeah.
So see where it goes.
Guess so.
Yeah.
We have one more Apple story. I know you guys, sorry,
speaking of revenue,
Apple heavy this second half, but we have one that could be really huge, a huge milestone in the history of public stocks and companies in the world. So Apple only needs $20 a share increase from it being the first $1 trillion company.
That is unprecedented.
And that is pretty much all due to the iPhone.
Yeah.
That is even possible. Because if you look back before, I know the iPod was huge before that, but the iPhone just took this company to another level. Kind of ridiculous.
It's like there's like not even really much. There's like no words to describe. Like that's never been done before in any way. And they did completely redefine an entire industry with the creation of the iPhone. And this is kind of the culmination of that success. And you can say what you want about where they're at now, but this is this is insane. Like I can't even, like, what would be the assets of the whole company if their shares alone are worth 1 trillion? Like, this is the most expensive company in the world in human history. As it stands. And
they also have more cash on hand than any other company. They have more cash on hand than small nations.
Then Bezos, after selling them shares, he's, it's got. I feel like a lot of the stuff that we can talk about regarding this is basically going to be a love fest, just like we did when the anniversary of the original iPhone hit. And Thompson, you were really big on the praise and how impressive it is and how much they changed the landscape when we talked about that in a previous episode. But I mean, that's basically, I mean, that's the only thing you can say is how impressive of a feat this is going to be. How what's the word? I mean, how we've touched on it all already, just how much they changed the landscape. It's how much different the world is now. It's, we didn't evolve from BlackBerries. They introduced a whole new thing that really changed the landscape of technology.
If you had told somebody 15 years ago that a cell phone company would be the first $1 trillion industry in like 2000 or 2002, like they would have called you a liar and laughed in your face.
Or they would have thought that the price of a MIDI ringtone skyrocketed.
Yeah, like it's some. Go ahead.
I think them charging $1,000 a phone was kind of pre-built to project them into that $1 trillion market.
Yeah, it definitely helps.
I mean, if you steal 300 and it costs $370,000, so it's it's a decent chunk of change.
Now I have a question for you guys. Who do you think the next $1 trillion company will be? Assuming Apple is the first. which they're not far off anyway. But who do you think the next $1 trillion company would be?
Amazon. Yep, Amazon.
That's what I was going to say as well.
Yeah, say if it's not Amazon, it's probably Google. That would be my guess.
I don't know who next closest is at the moment.
You guys think Amazon is going to be the next one?
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's going to be Macy's.
I can make a comeback.
The next one right now is Google.
That's what I figured. Yeah, because they're
Microsoft, but Amazon has so much potential to pass.
they're almost worth less than half of what Google is, though.
Yeah,
They're at like 400. I think it's into 400 billions. Google, I think, is in last time I checked, like 700 billion, something like that.
It's going to depend on where they go.
We'll see.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting because they're almost a shoe-in right now, Apple, for the first $1 trillion industry. With the devices that they've hinted at coming down the line, such as the HomePod and the updated Mac Pro and updates to their line. It's only a matter of time before that stock goes up, before they have another big product that comes out. So $20 is not a lot. If every shareholder gives Apple $20, then maybe, just maybe, they'll be $1 trillion company today.
Today.
But I don't know. It's something that I'm curious to see, and we'll be following as the news develops. So, but it's exciting stuff. The first $1 trillion company. Like, there's no words. But
with that, I think we want to sort of end this episode on a sort of a lighter note. I know Jeff put this article in, and I found it hilarious.
Listen, Ervin, you might find this a lighter note, but I take this very seriously. Okay. This.
You want to explain to the audience what this article is talking about?
To anyone living in Australia or with any affiliation with Australia, I have some dire news for you. Australia's plan to bring fiber optic broadband internet is experiencing some difficulties, and it's pretty serious. It's not happening with active cables, I'd like to say, that are running this fiber, because luckily they have plastic cages to protect these cables, but cables with loose ends are being just decimated by cockatoos. This is not a joke. The cockatoo, yeah, a cockatoo, which is a bird, if you don't know, which is in Australia, likes to go and just mess with these, exposed cables. They're doing it to wear down their beaks, which continually grow, and it's costing about $8,000 right now to replace the cables that have been damaged. So pretty serious. Maybe Jeff Bezos could throw some money their way to help out with this crisis.
Those cockatoos just love those steel braided cables.
This is an interesting topic, though, about damage to infrastructure by animals. They have some statistics down at the bottom.
This is so good.
In August alone, there were 51 service outages caused by animal incidents across 23 U.S. states and 8 other countries. 20 were caused by squirrels. Those are your big players, the squirrels. 16 by birds, 3 by rats, 2 by snakes, 2 by raccoons, 1 by a cat, 1 by a bobcat, and 5 were caused by an unreported animal. So I'm thinking either Bigfoot or Chupacabra, one or the other. Could be Chupacabra, guys. Don't count them out. All right.
Could be. What about flying squirrels? Those are even more dangerous than normal squirrels.
Maybe, man.
So
could have been a werewolf for all I know.
it could have. What about dragons? Gotta watch out for those too. Service outage has been caused by a dragon.
You know what?
But,
you know who I'd like to get on the show is this guy. His name is, not kidding here, his name is Chris. His nickname in quotes in the middle is Space Rogue Thomas. said at his presentation at January's ShmooCon in Washington, D.C., that furry, feathered, and scaled attackers, which number in the hundreds each year, pose a vastly larger threat to the world's critical infrastructure than cyber attacks.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You heard about that Reaper botnet, but you really should be worried about the squirrel outside your window.
This guy's beard rivals Kyle's. It's amazing. Could it be Kyle in the future or from the future? He's from Philadelphia.
What?
This guy is from
Whoa.
Philadelphia. Maybe we should try and set up something with this guy.
What is happening?
Maybe.
Yes, we should.
Space Road.
I'm okay with that.
One of my favorite quotes of the whole article is so Australia's national broadband network, the NBN, is who's being quoted here. A representative from the NBN told the BBC, "That's Australia for you. If the spiders and snakes don't get you, the cockies will."
Oh my
Australia is
goodness.
a deadly country.
It is. It's not
man.
a place where fiber is welcome, apparently.
It's dangerous down
I
there.
love this
boys.
picture. This picture too in the article. It's the picture of a cockatoo on a tree, and the
caption.
Yeah, the caption for it is, "I'm in your tower, now I'm in your internets."
It's great.
But not a laughing matter.
No.
In the words of Chris Space Rogue Thomas, this is a bigger threat than cyber attacks. So watch out for your cockatoos. Keep them caged.
Make sure you listen to Future Me, apparently, because
Yes.
Yes. And my
What's
little show note for this was there are cockatoo many birds.
Oh man.
Yeah. So
anytime someone brings up any sort of animal attack, I always think of the Walking Dead scene where Merle takes two of the guys from the governor's camp out to hunt, and then he shoots one of them in the back of the head. But right beforehand, he yells, "Did you hear that bird?" And then they all look, and he shoots him in the back of the head. So as soon as you said there's too many birds, I was like, "Did you hear that bird?"
all right.
We'll watch it together so you guys laugh harder later. Don't worry.
That sounds
Okay.
good, Kyle.
But with that somber note of very sad news, I think that unless anybody has any closing pointers or tips on avoiding cockatoos, I think that brings the end to episode 26 of Industry 4.0. Anybody have any closing notes or anything they'd like to plug before we
Before
close
the
up the show?
plugs, I just want to do a quick recap. Say,
Okay.
some serious comments to go to cockatoos. Protect yourself against phishing schemes. Be wary of suspicious emails. Be careful with your smartphones. Don't drop it. Pricey bill if you do. And the most serious of all, please put your cheese on top of your burger when you make it, or else you're just gonna have a public outcry. Okay.
Right.
Thanks for letting me have that little minute.
You're welcome. But if anybody wants to plug anything they're currently working on, say it now or forever hold your peace.
I don't hold my peace, so I'll get my plug out there. Episode music, as always, is a collection of beats by J-Buds. You can find me on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/thejbones. And yeah, check it out. Let me know what you think.
So I've been plugging a wrestling podcast almost every single episode. I won't officially call it dead, but it's been a while since we've done it. So I'm going to start a new solo one. Be on the lookout soon. I'll let you guys know officially when it does start. It's going to feature me and my 10-year-old son. I think it's going to be a unique perspective. An adult fan who understands the behind the scenes, and a 10-year-old who, like, even though he kind of knows that it's planned ahead of time, still gets wrapped up in the competition aspect of it. It'll be really cool. I'm excited about it. I'm more doing it just for us to have to look back on later, but feel free to check it out if you want. We're going to be calling it Phishing for Heat. Last name Fisher, and then Heat is a wrestling term if you did an explanation. You can reach out to us on here and I'll give it to you. So
Nice. Looking forward to that.
thanks.
Yeah.
As am I.
Brian, Ervin, anything from you guys?
Yeah, if you want to follow some photography that I do on the side just for fun, look at cool pictures, you can check out my Instagram if you'd like. It's instagram.com/ervin.lucas, ERVINLUKACS. I've been posting daily for about 2 weeks now, trying to keep that up. So if you're looking for some cool pics with some relevant quotes underneath them, check those out.
I look good. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at WayneRyan21 for some photography, and I have a new Facebook page up. It's called Rain Media, WRAYNE. You can find some sample photography there.
Awesome
good stuff.
stuff. Yeah, I plug that like every day to all my friends because it's so good.
Yeah, seriously.
Nice.
Both guys, impressive stuff. Keep up the good work, guys.
Yeah. But with that, you can find us on all of the big social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as Industry40, all spelled out. You can find us basically on any of your favorite podcasting services. You can get our RSS feed, if not, and add it to it. We're available on iTunes, Google Play Music, TuneIn Radio, basically anywhere that quality podcasts are distributed. And at this point, I feel like any of our viewers are comfortable enough to know where to find us or to point all your favorite friends to your favorite podcast. But with that being said, this has been episode 26, and we will see you guys in the next one.